I created this personal blog using V0 by Vercel. In this video, I'm going to show you a step-by-step guide on how to use V0 to get this output. V0.app is a vibe coding tool created by Vercel. It allows you to create an app based on a simple prompt. Now, as a product manager who is not a programmer, by the way, I use these vibe coding tools all the time. I mainly use them for rapid prototyping, basically converting an idea into an app, but I've also created a live transcription app using Vercel's V0 product that is currently being used. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to create an app right from creating an account on Vercel all the way till publishing your first app. So let's begin. This is their website v0.app, and not to be confused with their main website, which is Vercel. So Vercel.com is already a company and v0.app is their product of vibe coding or AI tool. As soon as you land on their website, you get to see the prompt section. Now, before we start prompting right away, let's look around the website, check out their pricing, check out the account creation flow, and then we'll get started. If you scroll down, you can see some examples here. These are the examples that have been created by other people, and you can see what kind of websites people are building or what kind of tools people are building. So for example, if you click on this landing page and click on view details, if you come to this page, you realize that this product pointer AI landing page is created by this person here. And this is created entirely using V0, and that's the idea, to give you some examples of how people are using Vercel's V0. Let's also look at the pricing page. Now, pricing is important because if you're doing it for the first time, you need to know what are the limits when using AI tools. When it comes to AI tools, they have certain limits on the usage, or they can also have limits on the number of apps that you build. So each product has found their own way of doing pricing. So you may want to check that before you start using them. So let's take a look at V0's pricing. Now, they have a free plan, and in the free plan, they have $5 of included monthly credits, deploy apps to Vercel, so you could deploy your apps once you've done with it, and edit visually with design mode, and then sync with GitHub. Not all features listed here may be suitable for a beginner level, but once you start using V0, you will notice that these features also become important. So this is good to know that they have a free plan here and we can start experimenting with it. All right, so let's go back. And they have an option here to start prompting. But before we get there, we should create an account. Now, some tools do allow you to start prompting and see the output without even signing up. But it's better to sign up first and then start it, because anyway, you will have to break the flow, complete the sign up and come back to prompting. So if you're doing it for the first time, I would recommend you to create an account, although that's not a must action, but good to do that. Now, I increase the size a little bit so that you can see very clearly. At the top, you can see they have two buttons. One is sign in and another one is sign up. Now, sign in is, of course, if you have already created an account, it's easy to do that. And sign up is for fresh accounts. So let's click on sign up. And this is their page where you can choose to sign up with 3 different modes. One is to, of course, provide your email ID and password. So that's choice 1. You also have an option to do it with Google directly. So you can go through the authentication flow of Google account or Gmail account. And then you also have an option to do it with GitHub. But if you click on show more options, you can do it with GitLab and also with Atlassian. And of course, if you have an account, they have a provision for you to sign in here directly. So for this demo, I'm going to select the email route and I'm going to enter my email address and password and get started. So I'll press on continue with email. They seem to have sent a code to my email address, so let's go check the email and see if I've got the code or not. Also, I see a warning here that if I have an account, then I might just want to sign in. But at this point, let's just go and check my Gmail. So I'm in my inbox and I can see Vercel has sent me a code, and this is the code that I need to use. So 497600. Let me just type it out here. And as soon as I enter the code, it is processing it, and I am done with sign up. So once you've completed your sign up, you will be directed to this page first and you will be taken to your dashboard. So that was relatively easy process. In fact, if you have a Gmail account already and want to try doing via Gmail, that's also an easy option for you to do. And with this flow, all you have to do is enter your email ID and password. You will get a code and you are already accessing the dashboard. Fantastic. So now that we have accessed the dashboard, this is how the dashboard looks like. Let me give you a quick tour of this dashboard before we begin prompting. Now, obviously, the main action is here in the center. This is a prompting box, or let's call it input box. This is where you enter what you want as an idea in order to convert it to an app. And here we have some choices. So they have clone a screenshot, import from Figma, upload a project, landing page. Now this is a mix of both. They are also giving you an idea of what you could start off with, but they're also trying to give you a way to do different type of prompting. And I'll talk about that a little later. And as you scroll down, you get to see the same examples that you saw before sign up. All right, so that is the main page here. You have this icon here to collapse the sidebar. Now collapsing sidebar is going to just expand your view and make it easier. But if you click on it now, you can see you have an option to click on new chat. Now, every time you create a new chat, it just creates a new project for you. And that could be for your new idea. So this is a button to do that. And you have an option to search, so you could search across your projects. This is projects. Now because we are here for the first time, we have not got any projects yet, and you also have option to see recent chats. Now you will notice this particular section becoming more relevant once we have some chats with V0. Of course, you have access to community, which is a special tab as well, and if you have more projects and chats, you can favorite them, and that appears in the favorite section here. Of course, since we do not have recent chats, that's going to be empty for now. At the very top, you can see they have personal, which is currently a free plan for us. You can also do team projects, but in this demo, I'm going to restrict myself to simply use it for my personal use case. On the other side, you have an option to upgrade. If you click on upgrade, you can see all their pricing plans. All right, on this side, I get to see the profile. Now let's take a look at the profile as well very quickly. You can see the first thing here is 10 messages left. Now I will come to this part of messages a little later, but currently it's good to know that we have 10 as a limit. And this is important, which is usage resets in one day. This basically means you can use up to 10 messages in a given day. When you access it the next day, it will reset to 10 again. So you are getting 10 messages every day. All right, so let's move on to the next section, which is profile. Now this is going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to be your own details and your activities. So nothing much to see here. If you go to settings, you can see that they have various settings. Now the settings in the initial project may not make a lot of sense to you, so you can just ignore them for now. All right, what else do we have? We have pricing page. We already saw that. They have link to documentation, community forum, and then some preferences. So that was a profile section. Let's go back to our app. Click on back to app. Now we're back to the main dashboard. Now here, I'm going to just expand this a little bit more and collapse that sidebar. Let's take a quick look at the input box here. The first icon that I see is plus sign, which has add from Figma and upload from computer. So you could upload some files from computer, or you could connect some Figma designs and import from Figma. Now these two features are very interesting to use, but if you're doing it for the first time, you may want to ignore them. But if you're curious to learn about these two features, let me know in the comments. I can make a follow-up video on that. The second option that I see is prompt tools. So here they have web search, which is already enabled, generate images. That's also a new feature that they have. So if you want, you could do that. And they have a message that says include generated images in your outputs, which is $0.05 per image. So they do come at a cost, and they have an option to enhance prompt, which I believe is part of some paid plan, which is not accessible to us right now. And at the very end, they have the icon to enter the prompt. All right, so let's begin, and I want to start off with a very simple prompt without adding any further context. And the reason to show you this simple prompt is to make you understand that sometimes we get very scared of using these AI tools, and we get very anxious about forming the prompts because we see on the internet that people have been forming very big prompts, very complicated prompts. So I want to just simplify that and get you started with a very simple prompt. So here I'm going to write create a personal blog. And that's it. Now, that's all you're going to start off with. You could replace that with create a landing page, create a workout tracking app. So you could add a lot more options here whenever you try it the next time. But I'm going with create a personal blog. And as soon as you enter this prompt, you can click on this button, enter. All right, so V0 is working here. The view has changed. My chat has gone on the left-hand side, and on this side of the screen, on the right-hand side, I can see that V0 is doing some process here. All right, I've got my first output here. This is about Alex Chen. I think this is some random name, of course. Welcome to my digital garden. I write about web development, design, and intersection of technology and creativity. If you scroll down, you get to see the featured post, and if you scroll down more, you have recent posts, and then you have about me section, and then you have some categories, stay updated, and the end of the website. Now, This basically is a proper app. It's a website. It's something that you can deploy and you can share it with others. We'll get to that part, but I want to give you an overall tour of what is happening on the left-hand side. Then we'll come back to the output here. By the way, you can adjust the section, the sizing of this section by doing this. Just move the mouse around here and it's easy to move this section. So let me just make it a bit bigger and I want to give you an overview of what's happening on the left-hand side. At the very top, you have toggle between chat and design. So if you click on design, it will go to a design mode. We'll check this out a little later. This is a message, what we call as prompt. Vercel is calling it as message. And if you recall, we have a limit of 10 messages. We have already used up one message, which means we have 9 messages left. So when you're trying it for the first time, you may want to be aware of that. Now V0 is listing down its process. The user wants me to create a personal blog. This is a design focused request and it would benefit from creative direction since they have provided specific visual requirements for content focus. Now some of this may not be very relevant. You don't even have to read that. And it says, I'll help you create a personal blog. It has generated design inspiration, explode some code base. And then you can see this is the version that we got. This is the V1. It says created personal blog and that's the version that we are at right now. This particular response that you get, you can upvote it if you like. You can also copy this response and you can click on retry if you do not see an output. Now in the chat view, you have an option to ask for a follow-up. Now a follow-up is required if you want to make any changes to the output. So let's go check the output. I will resize this again. And let me make this a little bigger and you have an icon here at the top. If you click on it, it will expand that output and make it full screen width. So here, if you want to toggle back to chat, you can do that easily. And at the very top, you have an option to see the code as well as the UI. Now, this particular UI that you see has a code in the backend. Of course, it has to generate a code in order to see this output. So if you click on code, you can go ahead and check out what they have actually done here. Now, if you like, you can also edit the code. If you're a software engineer, it's very easy to understand this. You can make some edits and see the output. But if you're not an engineer, you're a non-programmer, you can ignore this part of the output and stick to the UI. Now all this content is actually auto-generated with AI and it is basically like a placeholder text. This is not something that we provided in the prompt. Also, if you notice when you click on certain links, it actually does not work because it's just showing you how the link would be, but it doesn't do anything if you click on it. So if I click on read more, nothing more happens there, which means this particular output that you have is not something that you will share with other users. Now suppose I'm not very happy with the output that I'm seeing here, or if I want to make some changes to specific text, how can I do that? How do you make changes to the output that you see here? Now let's talk about one change, which is instead of calling it Alex Chen, I want to call it Maria's blog. So that's change number 1. And suppose here I'm not too happy with the green color theme. I want probably to have something like red color or blue color. And so I may want to change the color scheme here. So that's option number 2. The third thing is you could also say, hey, how about having a separate section for contact? So when I click on contact, it should have a completely different page. Now these are all 3 different requests and I want to show you how to go about making these changes. So let's click on the chat mode here and let me increase the size a little bit. Now this is where you would ask for a follow-up. Now here, just type whatever change you want. So let me say change the name from Alex Chen to Maria's blog. So in the same prompt, you can add as many changes as you would like. Remember, you have limit on the messages. So this is where prompts become more and more complex, which means you could have actually avoided this particular follow-up message if you had prompted that in the first prompt itself. But the idea here is to get you started and to make you understand how this actually works without complicating the first prompt. Otherwise, you will never start. So let's go ahead with a second change. Let's say I want to change the color scheme. So change the color scheme from green to, let's go with blue. You could also add a third change. Let's say create a separate page for contact details. Now just observe how I have specified the changes in plain English. I am not trying to use a lot of jargons or complicated words in this prompt. If you want to get better at prompting, I have a small tip for you at the end. So let's click on enter and see what happens. So again, like the first prompt, it starts working and you will see that it is thinking here and it will probably think for 5 to 10 seconds. You'll also see the working happening here. And these changes should be fairly easy and simple to make. And while you're waiting, you can actually see how it is working. So it's reading main page, reading the layout, reading global styles. This is basically going through the code and trying to make edits to the code. Now, because we cannot do the programming part, we have to rely on the AI tool to do it for us. If you're an engineer, you know exactly where to go in order to make this change. But there is one more feature that I want to show you a little later on how to do visual edits without having to use the prompt. Now, while this prompt is working, you also notice the stop button. So you can stop the prompt from generating the output if you like. And there we have it. There is an output here on the right hand side. Just notice how the name has been changed from Alex to Maria's blog. Let me expand this. And the color theme has changed, which is now blue in color, which is also good. And we also wanted the contact page. So if I click on contact, so I'll be honest, I actually don't know what just happened. I asked for a new page and when I clicked on it, nothing really happened. So I'm going to go back to the chat and see what really went wrong. So this is where you have to now do the debugging of it. Let's see what they really did. Now, successfully updated the blog. That's fine. Name has been changed. That's correct. And the color scheme has been switched. It has also created a comprehensive contact page with contact form, contact details. The contact page maintains the same design consistency as main blog. You notice how V0 says that it has actually created the page, but when you click on it, let me go back to the output. When you click on contact, nothing really happens. So I'm not sure what has happened. Let me try reloading this page one more time. I'll click on refresh. Now I've got this reloaded. If I click on contact, now it worked. This is something you will encounter with the Vibecoding tools. Sometimes you will get into these errors that you may not know what's really happening. You can fix it in two ways. One is you can refresh the page. It sometimes just has reloading issues. Or you can actually put a follow-up prompt describing the issue and trying to get it fixed. During this demo, if I encounter any bug or an error, then I can also show you that flow, but I hope there are no errors. But you can actually ask V0 to fix the bug themselves. Now, they already had created a contact page, but if you noticed earlier, we saw a completely different UI. So these tools, although claim to have the best output, sometimes they falter and they can make mistakes. Alright, so that was about making changes via follow-up messages. There's one feature I want to show you, which is also my personal favorite. It's called visual editing. So here at the top, if you click on design, it says design mode. And here it allows you to select an element on the preview to make changes. What does that mean? At this point, anything on the right hand side is now editable. Observe how these elements get highlighted as soon as I move my mouse over it. Right? So here if you see get in touch, I would love to hear, all these elements are becoming editable. What that means is if I want to call Maria's blog as Maria's personal blog, I simply double click on it and start typing. So when I'm done typing, all I have to do is click outside of that box. And here you can see what kind of change was done. Now, while you're at it, you can also change something else that you like. So let's say you want to say, instead of get in touch, you want to call it contact me. Make the edit, click outside, and then it becomes a second change. So if you see on the left hand side, it tells you what kind of changes it is making. It's recording that change in that particular section. And you can click on save. So as you click on save, it will record that output that you just changed in the UI, and you didn't even have to type anything. So if you remember, for the first change, we had to type it out, like remove the name Alex Chen and add it as Maria's blog. But for this one, you don't have to. So now if you switch back to chat, and if you come here, you will see that the details have been changed. So let's go back to the full mode here. I'll click on home. I think I just noticed a bug. The Maria's personal blog actually changed only on this page. So when I said Maria's personal blog, it added the word personal only on this page. When I go back to home, I don't see that change reflecting all around, which means it is doing a very specific change on that specific page. These are the kind of bugs that you will occasionally encounter with these vibe coding tools. So I'm glad this actually happened so that I could show you on how these vibe coding tools really work. I want to show you another feature which will be restoring to the previous versions. So in order to do that, I want to quickly change the color scheme. Now let's say I want to change the color scheme to yellow. And I will click on enter. And there we have it. It is more of a brown color than a yellow color. So let's talk about restoring to the previous versions. What do I mean by that? If you see here, we made 3 changes via the prompt. So the first change was creating a personal blog. The second change was changing the name, the color scheme, and separate page for contact details. And then we had changed the color scheme to yellow. So that's the third change that we made, which means this output is now in its third version, and it is actually indicated at the top here. You can see you have these versions 1, 2, 3. And if you want to go back to the previous version, let's say we do not really like this yellow color theme. We want to go back to the blue theme. So I'm going to just select version 2. And it will just switch to that version. Now here's an important thing when it comes to restoring it to previous version. By simply selecting this version, it does not actually make the change. So don't make a mistake like I just did. I thought it was actually restored, but you have to click on this restore button. So click on restore and it goes back to the version 2. And that's when it says version restored successfully, and you can see this version over here. Now while we are here, let's also quickly check what is there at the top section. So at the top here, you have an option to open it in a new tab. So if you want to see it in its full glory, this is how the page will look like. You can also refresh. We already had to use this, so there's an option to refresh as well. You can select an element. This is basically the same design mode or visual editing. Now, when you click on this select an element here, it basically allows you to make any edits. But if you do not make edits and if you want to come out of this mode, you have to go back to this panel, click on chat, and it brings it out of that mode. There's another option to see the console. This is slightly more advanced. So if you're a beginner at this point, you can simply ignore this. You can also go full screen. You can add to code base, or you can download the zip file. Now this is basically for someone who wants to access the code. Now when it comes to V0, there are 2 ways you can share this. One is you can share the entire project as it is. The other option is to publish the app, and then people can see only the app. Now what is the difference? When you share a project, people can see the chat as well as the output, and I'll show you that in a second. And if you publish it and share that link, then they can only see this output, which is the blog. So let's look at the share feature first. When you click on share, you can see that people with access is currently you. This is your account, and you can choose the visibility. So anyone with the link, anyone on the web, or private. If you do private, this is what the current mode is. If you do anyone with the link, what happens is if someone has the link of this project, they can see entire project. So let me copy this link and show you in an incognito mode. So I'll paste the link here in incognito. And imagine I'm somebody who just got this link. I can see the entire project. I can see your chats, your prompts, and I can also see your output. But what if you want to share only the output? In the sense, I only want to share the blog. Then how do I do it? For that, you have to publish it. And let's go check that out. So here, right next to share, you have an option to publish. They also call it deploy to Vercel. So click on publish. And here you see you can publish to the web. And this is the version that you have selected. Customize the domain if you have a custom domain. For now, let's just assume that you don't have, and visibility is public. Now, as soon as you click on publish, it will just go to production, and we'll see how that works. So let's click on publish to production. Now, publishing an app can take a while, so you want to be patient with it. And it also depends on how big or heavy the app is. So it looks like it is ready. It's saying updated just now. It is ready here. We have an option to republish V4 in case you made any changes. And we have an option to visit the site. So let's click on visit site. So this is the first app that we just published. Now after this, suppose you make any changes to your project, how will they reflect here on the live app? So let me show you how this works. If you go back to your project here, and suppose I make a visual edit, and let's say I want to change this from Maria's blog to personal blog. I'll come out of it, make a save here. Now this change is done. If you go ahead and refresh this page, which is a published app, it will actually not reflect any changes. And that is because once you make any changes, you have to publish them so that others can see the changes for the link that you have shared. All right, so let's click on publish changes. And it's initializing. All right, it is saying it is ready. So let's go and check. I'll refresh this page. And this is where I see the changes reflecting now. So this is Maria's personal blog. It's same as the project that we have here. Now here's my tip for making your prompt a bit better. This is something that I thought of using, and so it might be useful to you as well. I actually use ChatGPT, and let me quickly show you how I do that. So I'm here on this ChatGPT, and I'm going to explain it to ChatGPT that I need a personal blogging site. So let's say, help me write a prompt for V0 Vercel to get a nice personal blog. Now this is all I'm writing for now, just to give you a demo, and if you click on enter, it will give you a strong prompt that you can drop into Vercel. You will notice that how your prompt was different from how ChatGPT is giving you the prompt. And now this is where you can make use of tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini in order to make your prompt stronger. This is where you will also start to understand the kind of terminologies these vibe coding tools might be using that might be helpful for you to understand as well. So that's your tip. Try to use it, see if it works, and let me know in the comments how that worked for you. This space is constantly evolving, and I talk about these tools on LinkedIn and Twitter or X, so you can follow me there. I hope this video was helpful for you. Thanks for watching.